The dish I'm going to make is an adaptation of pasta puttanesca. I've adapted it to be a one-dish, main dish, rich and delicious with all the bright flavors from the original. I've got everything lined up and ready to go, so if you don't care, I'll talk while I cook, which I do anyway. We're going to start with the sauce. Now, the first time I ever heard about pasta puttanesca was when we were reading the Lemony Snicket books, and the children had to come up with a dish with very few ingredients. And that was actually what I thought pasta puttanesca meant, was pasta with very few ingredients. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I discovered that there was actually another story behind it, which frankly was a much better story. I understand the Italian ladies of the night would make the sauce and put it in their window, and the fragrance would draw in customers. So when I developed this dish, look what my friend did. Tell me that's not the cutest thing ever. My friend Jonathan Harris made ingredients that I like to get together before I start cooking. I learned mise en place a few years ago, and when I started using it, I realized how much quicker and how much easier putting a meal together went. Matter of fact, this is how important I think mise en place is. All of my children know how to cook. I've been teaching them. A Confederate soldier that was here being treated. I don't know what his name was, but I swear he has not left yet. We see him all the time. He does stuff like this. I call him Jeffrey. The family members, I think we're 8 generations down for this house. Family members that built this house were actually Union sympathizers, which a lot of East Tennesseans were. All right, so I'm finally getting the sizzle. You hear that? That's how you know that your ingredients are starting to work for you. So I have 2 very big sprigs of fresh thyme. Those are going to go right in there. As they cook, the little leaves will just kind of cook off and fall off on their own, and the woody stems will be left over. You just pull them out right before you serve it. Or if you get real lazy, you can do what I do, which is tell your children that if they find the bay leaf or the leaf of thyme or whatever it is, that they get a wish. They fall for it. All right, so I'm going to let this sit and sizzle for a minute, and I'm going to walk over here and I'm going to smack down some of our pork. Okay, we live in East Tennessee, and right next door is North Carolina, where there are more pigs than you could throw a stick at. So we use a lot of pork around here. Right here, what I have, let me show you this. What I have here are simply pork loin chops. And the new grocery store where I bought these actually had a sticker. Oh, my sticker's gone. I wanted to show you that these had been cut Whopper thin. Whopper thin. But they're not thin enough for me because I want them even thinner. We're going to cook them, and I want this to be very quick to throw together. Now, normally you have a mallet to pound things out with, but if you have 7- and 5-year-old little boys running around in your kitchen, sometimes a few of your utensils disappear. Not a big deal. Put your cutlets between a couple of pieces of parchment paper. It's going to get loud for a second. The really cool thing about pounding something out like this, not only can you get a really nice sear on the outside of it and get it real crispy and wonderful and cook it just in a flash, you can also double your portion size. Or make them a tea cup. So this is one of the things I feed a large family. Not only my own group, but often my brother, his wife, and 4 kids. Well, there it goes. So quite often I will feed up to 12 to 16 people a night. So I have a lot of tricks that I like to use like that. Stretch the dollar and make the budget work for me. So we're going to give him a quick stir. It's looking good. It's starting to smell good. That's how you know it's coming together. Now, I'm going to turn my oven on. And the only reason I'm doing this is my pork is going to be coming out in batches, and I want to keep it warm while we're waiting on the sauce and the pasta. So I'm putting the oven on the very lowest setting, and as the pork comes out, it's going to go in the oven on very low, if I can ever get the oven to get down there. I've got an oven thermometer in here. Had a little issue when we, a couple weeks back, and I couldn't figure out why in the world some things weren't turning out. My oven was 50 degrees too low. So if you have $4 or $5, invest in an oven thermometer. It is well worth it. You can tell why things are working or not working. So this is just olive oil, plain full-bodied olive oil, not extra virgin, because we're going to be cooking at a medium to high heat, and you don't want to lose the flavor profile from extra virgin olive oil. The full-bodied stuff does really well. It's also less expensive, so I like that. Okay, to do our pork, we're going to make a breading station. And this is very simple. And all a breading station is, remember, mise en place, putting things together before you use them. So right here I have 2 eggs and a little bit, now I got eggs on the counter, a little bit of water, a couple tablespoons. And over here I have a couple of cups, maybe 3 cups, of panko breadcrumbs, that's the Japanese breadcrumbs. And right here is one of my secret ingredients. This is a mixture I call SOS, same old seasoning, same old stuff. And I use it all the time. I use the same garlic powder, onion powder, kosher salt, and black pepper so much that I went ahead and mixed up batches of it ahead of time, and I use this on everything. Now I've got a couple of tablespoons in here. You want this real well seasoned. I'm going to add it to the egg mixture, and I'm going to put a tiny bit on the outside of my pork cutlets. You want each layer to be well seasoned. You don't want to bite through and have a great outside and then the inside is just kind of that. That's not nice. Don't need to do that. So you want both sides. Okay, so there we go. He needs a bath on the outside because I have porky hands. So this is good. I'm going to transfer this to the sink real quick. Here we go. So, now, back over here. See how the onions are beginning to get just a tiny bit brown right there? There we go. Ooh, nice. Almost burned the garlic. Don't do that. You've got to watch that. So I've got a quarter tomatoes. Isn't that funny? That looked like I canned those tomatoes, didn't it? I didn't. Well, I'm going to tell a story on my aunt in a minute. All right, so go ahead and throw the tomatoes in. And at this point, you want to add just a little bit of crushed red pepper flakes. Okay. One of the signatures of this dish is that it's got a lot of very intense flavors. Fragrance is out of this world. It's about a tablespoon of lemon juice. These are capers. Love capers. Now I drained the liquid from these, but I did not rinse them. I just think they're fabulous in the sauce. If they're too intense for you, go ahead and rinse them. My final ingredient, you can use a couple of anchovy fillets, or if you can find a paste, about a tablespoon. Don't be afraid of anchovies. Don't be a weenie. It gives a fabulous depth of flavor and complexity to the dish. It melts right in and disappears. You'll never be able to taste it and say, oh, there's an anchovy. But you will get that in the mouth when you bite into it. So I'm going to let this come to a simmer. We're going to work on the pork. And while this simmers, it's going to start reducing down, and it's going to be lovely in just a minute.